I'll share this quote with you. It's my favorite quote. I have this pinned in front of my on my desk where I work, because for me it captures the essence of well-intentioned but poorly implemented project management. There's nothing quite so useless as doing with great efficiency what should not be done at all. And that's from Peter Drucker, 1963, over 50 years ago. And I would contend that is probably more relevant today than it was back then. And the key words for me are with great efficiency, because as a project management community, that's what we excel at, doing things with great efficiency. That's what we get employed for. But if the end product wasn't supposed to have been done from the beginning, there's no point in having done it with great efficiency. So how prevalent a problem is this? A couple of case studies. Logica Management Consulting, back in 2008, survey of 380 senior executives concluded that 37% of business process change projects failed to deliver their benefits. Not great. But it gets worse. KPMG obviously had a bigger travel budget, 600 organizations globally, and only 2% of organizations reported that all their projects achieved the desired benefits. 86% of organizations reported a shortfall of at least 25% of their target benefits across their portfolio. Those are scary numbers. 86% of organizations, a shortfall of at least 25% across their portfolios. Let's take a different lens on it. What did the better projects do? McKinsey Report. Top performing projects have a clear view of the initiative's strategic value, build a robust business case, and maintain focus on that business case throughout the project. And I'd like to pull out two key things out of there that I think are quite important. Clear view. No fuzziness, no ambiguity, no couched in woolly terms. An unambiguous, clear view of the project's value that everybody can understand. And the second one is the whole project timeline. So it's not something that was done and then put in a drawer and forgotten about. It's focused throughout the project. So what sort of issues are we talking about? I picked this one because it's quite a common one in IT projects, where teams get focused disproportionately on the technology issues and targets. And one case study, looking at a few weeks ago, around a bank that wanted to centralize its data warehousing. And it's doing this to resolve inconsistency between business unit data and centralized data and risk management data. Commissioned a project, but the team got a bit carried away. And in building their central warehouse, they took on all of the information that was in the bank. They tried to rationalize all the information in the bank. They got carried away with the architectural purity of what they were trying to do. Lost sight of what was a modest business challenge to resolve some inconsistencies. 18 months later, with milestones having been missed and having spent $10 million, the bank pulled the plug. So that's $10 million for zero benefit. This second one is one that I've been personally involved with. Took on a project where the business had done a Moscow analysis, and their Moscow analysis had 330 musts, 40 shoulds, and no coulds. Now, I ask you, does that look like a business case that has been optimized? In tackling this, what we did is we broke it down into about 17 or 18 different buckets of requirements. And in working with the business, got to the conclusion that actually most of the business case came from about 10 or 11 of those buckets. Now, the project is still in flight. It might be, as times get a little tough, it might even go 9, 10 of those buckets would still deliver the majority business case. The last example is an apples and pears comparison. This is the sort of thing that you get horror stories from NASA about. The wrong measures being used unintentionally. In NASA's case, they had half a team working with thrust in pounds and imperial measures, and the other half of the team working in newtons. and it meant that they lost the Mars launcher. In our case, it's about trying to balance costs and revenues. Those are not the same things. So if you have a project that's justified, £1 million project, it's great, over 3 years it'll deliver £2 million of revenue. Okay, sounds good. But what's the actual contribution from that revenue? What's the operating margin? What's the actual money in the door? If the operating margin is only 40%, you're now doing a £1 million project and getting 800k worth of money back into the business in 3 years. Suddenly not looking so good. And again, a real example that I've come across. The point I'm trying to draw out is that once a project is in flight, most of the effort, the majority of the effort goes on the when, who, and how much. Okay? Those are the things that project management excels at. If you have a good team and a strong product owner, then hopefully there'll be a good emphasis on the what as well, the requirements, doing things like backlog grooming and making sure the requirements are prioritized, etc. But almost invariably the why gets neglected. Those of you who are observant will probably know that that doesn't actually add up to 100%. It's about 92. There's 8% missing. Where does that go? Honestly, I have no idea. We all been on projects where resource just somehow disappears and you've nothing to show for the end of it. A lot of project managers will say, actually, I have a standing addenda item for business case analysis on my project boards. But really, does it happen?